Hey, what's going on? What's going on? In the middle of this lockdown. My city's actually locked the hell down right now. My town is actually under emergency lockdown right now because some people contracted that stuff. But it is what it is. Terrence Crawford versus Earl Spence Jr. 2020. Is it gonna happen? And only bringing it up because last couple of days, pretty much the Terrence Crawford side of things have been talking about that particular fight happening this particular year. Like, oh yeah, it's gonna happen this year. It's gonna happen this year, and is that something that could come into fruition this year? And me personally, I have to say no. That's number one, and number two, I go back to when it comes to anything that pertains to Bob Arum or Top Rank. I always go back to what he said at one time, which is, fans are like dumb rocks that you can throw in any direction. And whenever they talk, make comments, like this, like, oh yeah, what's gonna happen this year, it's gonna happen this year. That's all they're basically doing. They're just trying to throw you in any direction. That fight's not happening this year. Bomac got into a, back and forth on social media. And, a thing that was said to him was that one of the things that was said to him was, Terrence Crawford hasn't done what it takes, to build his name up. He hasn't done that part, his part, as far as this fight being made. Because people might want to like it or not. The reality is those two companies are not going to come together and set up a fight, unless there's a lot of, financial gain in it. And Earl Spence will do the fight right now. But, look at all the pay-per-views that Earl Spence has done. Look at the gates that Errol Spence has been doing and the revenue he's been bringing. It's substantially more than a Terrence Crawford, so it's not going to be, a 50-50 two network type of deal. It'd be like, all right, we're going to give you this particular amount and you come over here to Fox and let's do the fight, and we've heard Terrence Crawford say there's no other side of the streets. Yeah, there's no other side of the streets until it's time for you to actually set up your fight. You know what I'm saying? Especially with somebody of that caliber. Then all of a sudden, yes, there's a side of the street. Because, Bob Arum said himself, he wants to do a dual fight between both networks. That's number one. And he wants it to be a 50-50 fight. And the reality is they're not going to do the fight unless it's a 50-50 fight. And Earl Spence is not just going to give him 50% of the purse. So since he wants that 50%, he has to put himself into a position, to be able to get that. Put yourself into the types of fights that are going to generate 250, 300, 350,000 pay-per-views like Earl Spence is doing. Then you have equal footing when you come to the table. A fight like with a Danny Garcia, if they'd given Danny the money that he wanted, that would have been such a fight. Sean Porter, especially with the spectacular fight that he had with Earl Spence, everybody wanted to see that fight again between Earl Spence and Terrence and Sean Porter. And if they had fought again, that fight would have did again 325, 350,000 pay-per-views or higher because of the success of the first fight. So he could have, piggybacked off that particular performance that Earl Spence had, and then he could have, fought Sean Porter. And then the whole fight, you could be talking about how you're going to show Earl Spence, how it's done. You're going to show Earl Spence how to beat a fighter like this. And that's actually would be the good time to use Earl Spence's name. That's a time where it actually makes sense to use Earl Spence's name. But to continuously call out and talk about Earl Spence when you're fighting very low tier competition while Earl Spence taking on the cream of the crop, it makes it look bad. So now going back to Bomac, when they said to him that, yo, your fighter hasn't done what's necessary, to make this fight happen, he goes into, if your fighter wasn't drinking, and crashing his car, then this fight would happen, this, that. He goes into something else because he couldn't dispute what was being said. So he had to change the whole subject and change the whole narrative in order to come back. And reality situation, even if that, crash didn't happen, Terrence Crawford wouldn't have been fighting Earl Spence. What would have been happening is, Earl Spence would have been fighting Danny Garcia in a pay-per-view at the Barclays, doing another 325, 350,000 pay-per-views, selling 18, 19,000 seats at the Barclays. That's what he would have done. That's what would have been next. Terrence Crawford wouldn't have been next. And Terrence Crawford still would have been fighting Mean Machine, getting dropped, even though they didn't call it, getting hurt, having to, come back from that and stopping him late. That still would have happened. That's exactly what would have happened. Nothing else would have happened besides that. So the fight wouldn't have happened anyway. And Terrence Crawford would still continue this downward spiral when it comes to popularity in the sport of boxing. So the fight wouldn't have happened anyway. And now obviously we have all this stuff that's going on right now. Everything is shut down. And unfortunately, the only way they can see to keep their name in the game is to continuously talk about, Earl Spence. And it's cool. There's nothing wrong with talking about Earl Spence. But when you're talking about wanting to fight him and you're going to fight him, and then you continuously continue to face very low tier competition, it doesn't help. You're not doing what's going to be necessary to make this fight happen. And fans are like, we don't care about this and that, and we don't care about the money, this. Well, the networks care about the money. And Terrence Crawford cares about the money. That's why he consistently keeps asking for 50-50. He's not saying, give me 30% and I'll come over there to Fox and I'll fight you. That's not what he's saying. Because if he, quote, didn't care about the money, that's what he would say. And when, even a couple of months ago, when him and Terrence Crawford, when him and Earl Spence were going back and forth with each other, one of the tweets that I remember is Earl Spence saying, your side knows exactly what they need to do in order to make this fight happen. So you go tell your promoters to say okay to those terms and let's do it next. People forget about that part. That means something's been put on the table. And even Bomac said, oh, yeah, offers have been made, but they're just worried about, their guys and this and that. So, okay, it seems as if some offers were made, in order to make this particular fight happen. So say yes to whatever they offered you then. If that's the case, either say yes to whatever they offered or start to do the things that's necessary to put yourself on the same level as this man has done, because he continues to progress and he continues to become even a bigger star. Obviously, this incident has slowed him down with the car, and then obviously what's going on in the world right now is also kind of slowing things down. But once it's over, he's going to be right back on the track of stardom, whether it be a Danny Garcia fight or a Manny Pacquiao fight. He might be getting a Manny Pacquiao fight next in unification. Then after that, he can still fight Danny at the Barclays in a big, huge fight on a fight that does 325,000 pay-per-views. He can still fight Sean Porter after that in another fight that does 325,000 pay-per-views. If Keith Thurman is ready after that, he can still fight Keith Thurman and do another 325,000 pay-per-views. So he has a lot of different options. So you need to, number one, try to cut those options away by your promoters paying these guys what they want, and you showing that, hey, I'm on that same level against that same level of competition. Because when it comes to the people that you're facing, no one cares. No one cares about that. We can, even with your last fight, we can sit here all day naming fights on Fox that did superior numbers to you. That's not good, especially in the space that you were just a year ago. So is there a fight happening in 2020? I would say absolutely not. Is a fight happening in 2021? I'm going to say no. I'm going to have to say no because I don't see, what Terrence Crawford necessarily is doing that, that's going to progress himself to the space where he's on, an even keel with the Earl Spence. And I don't see his side setting up any kind of fight unless there's equal money that's being put up. Unless it's a 50-50 split. Unless it's a dual competition. And Earl Spence is not going to go. People probably say, why doesn't Earl Spence just go to ESPN? Earl Spence is not just going to ESPN, the network that, that signed, Terrence Crawford. It's Terrence Crawford's network. He's not going to go fight on a top rank card, that you're the other guy's promoter. You know what I mean? That's not happening. That would be asinine. That would be stupid. He's going to make sure that he's in the best possible space for him. And make sure the people that are around are going to be looking out for his best interest. And with him having the leverage that he has, for him to just give that all up, it would be asinine. And don't see him doing it. So unfortunately, the back and forth on social media, that's all we're going to be seeing. When all this stuff is over, I do see Earl Spence taking on either Danny Garcia or taking on a Manny Pacquiao or taking on both. Eventually within probably a 6-month period and continue to progress his career. And unfortunately, I just see Terrence Crawford still facing low-tier competition and that light continuing to dim. But we shall see. Like, subscribe, share. I'm out.